I used to believe that success defined me, that the titles, the promotions, the praise were proof that I mattered. For years, I measured my worth by the number of hours I worked, the compliments I earned, and how impressed people looked when I said what I did for a living. My job wasn't just something I did, it was who I was. It gave me identity, purpose, pride. And then, one morning, with one short email, it was gone. It was a quiet Tuesday. Nothing felt unusual. I made coffee, checked my messages, and there it was. "We regret to inform you." The kind of line that looks simple on a screen but lands like a punch to the chest. I remember staring at that message for minutes that felt like hours, trying to make sense of it. I kept refreshing the page, as if somehow it would change, as if it was a mistake. But it wasn't. Just like that, everything I had built my identity around had vanished. The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was shame. I didn't know who I was without that job. I didn't know how to introduce myself anymore. I felt small, like the world had taken my nameplate off the door and, along with it, my value. The silence after that loss was deafening. Days blurred into nights. I avoided calls from friends because I didn't know how to explain that I wasn't busy anymore. I told my parents I was taking a break, even though deep down, I wasn't resting. I was unraveling. One afternoon, I walked into a cafe I used to visit during my work breaks. The barista smiled and asked, "The usual?" And something about that question broke me. The usual. I didn't have a usual anymore. I just nodded and sat down, holding back tears I didn't understand. It wasn't just a job I'd lost. It was the illusion of control. The belief that if I worked hard enough, I could earn my worth. But life has a strange way of humbling you when you start chasing validation instead of truth. After a few weeks of self-pity, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a walk with no destination. The sun was setting, and the sky looked like it had been painted just for me. I found a bench near a small park and sat there, watching people rush home from work, briefcases and coffee cups in hand. And for the first time, I noticed how tired they all looked. That S when it hit me. Maybe I wasn't the only one who had confused purpose with performance. The next day, I met a former coworker for lunch. She had also been laid off. She said something I'll never forget. "I thought that job made me special, but now I realize it just made me busy." Her honesty hit me harder than any motivational quote ever could, because I saw myself in her words. I had spent years trying to prove I was enough by climbing a ladder that never ended. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding, not my resume, but myself. I began journaling every morning, not about my goals, but about my gratitude. I listed things that had nothing to do with work. The warmth of sunlight on my face, the laughter of my niece, the peace in moments when no one was watching. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. I wasn't used to valuing myself for just existing. I had always tied my self-esteem to achievement, but slowly I began to see that I had worth even in stillness, even when the world wasn't tea-clapping. A few months later, I took a part-time job at a small community center. It paid far less than my old position, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in years: purpose. I met people who worked quietly, humbly, doing things that mattered without needing recognition. One woman there said to me, "You don't have to prove your value. You already have it. You're just remembering it again." Those words stayed with me. It was then I realized that losing my dream job wasn't to the end. It was an awakening. Because maybe the dream wasn't the job itself, but the chance to finally wake up and see who I was without it. I learned that the world can take away titles, income, and opportunities, but it can never take away your worth. Now, when I meet people, I don't ask them what they do. I ask them what they love. I ask what makes them feel alive. Because that's where value lives, not in performance, but in presence. The funny thing is, when I stopped trying to impress everyone, I started connecting with people who saw me, not my achievements, not my resume, just me. Looking back, losing that job was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It stripped me of everything false and left behind everything true. It taught me that confidence isn't built from success. It's built from self-respect, and I no longer chase titles or recognition. I chase peace, meaning, and authenticity. So if you re-watching this and you've lost something that once defined you, a job, a dream, a plan, I want you to know this. You are not your achievements. You are not your income. You are not your failures. You are the courage it takes to start again. Sometimes losing what you thought you needed is the only way to find what you truly deserve. The day I lost my dream job was the day I stopped earning my worth and started remembering it. If this story spoke to you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs a reminder that they're enough, and subscribe to Legacy Alive for more cinematic stories that speak to the heart. Tell me in the comments, what's one moment that made you question your worth and then rebuild it from within? Because sometimes the endings we fear the most are the beginnings that set us free.